have you ever been frustrated about something that you're working towards and you feel like you're just not seeing the results of all the work you've been putting in? Like you feel like it's just taking a little bit too long? Yeah, me too, friend. I'm right there with you. Matter of fact, a couple days ago in a video, I talked about this exact thing, my frustration as it relates to my business and just not being able to achieve the things that I, think I should have been achieving by now. I'm not growing at the rate that I feel like I should have been growing by now. Real frustrations. I'm right there with you. I completely understand. And because I have shared this with so many different people now send me stuff and are just like, hey, this made me think of you. So I had a friend of mine that sent me a recent podcast that she put up. Her name is Desiree at Desiree.ofori. I will tag her in this video actually. But she sent me this actually to a group of us. It's like a collaboration hub that we have. Sent us this podcast about being a hidden gem and like what that means. I am not even going to go into all of it, but I will tell you right now, it is so good if you're in this space of like just being frustrated and feeling like you are a hidden gem. Like, you have this value, but why are things not going the way that I'm expecting them to be going, But she talked about that in the podcast and just how God is really preparing us for the day that we're no longer hidden. So check that out. So that's the first thing that was sent to me. The second thing was a song that my friend sent to me by Maverick City. And the song, I think it's called Wait on the Lord or Wait on God. I think it's Wait on the Lord. But in that song, I had already been listening to it for days, just like on repeat. And so when she sent it to me, it was kind of like confirmation, like, okay, this is what I need to be doing, is waiting, right? So one of the days that I was listening to that song, let me just say that this was supposed to be a 60-second video. Like these empowerment videos that I'm starting to put up, they're supposed to be 60 seconds or less, but this one it's got some more meat than 60 seconds. I'm already at like 2 minutes probably. So, but that's okay. We're going to still get right into it. It's going to be worth it. I promise you, kid you not. So, I had listened to that song on repeat the other day. And in that time of just like sitting, I think I was journaling and things like that. And something came to me. I started thinking about just science and how plants grow. And this is not a new concept. So I'm going to tell you that now. You may have heard this concept before, but just stick with me. Let me just really explain it to you how it all has come to me. So I started looking up the cycle or the like growth cycle of plants and just how they go from this little seed under the ground to flowering or producing the fruit or whatever it is that they're supposed to be producing. And in that lesson, in that research, and I say research, I don't mean like I've sat and did a dissertation, but I definitely dug as far as I could dig to find the perfect message for what this life cycle of a plant is like. And there's 6 different stages. And so as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. This is exactly what life is like and how we grow in the different things that we want to achieve, whether it's our ideas or a business. If you have someone in your life or in your family that is an entrepreneur, and especially a new entrepreneur, send this video to them like right now. Send it and come right back, okay? But this life cycle of a plant, it relates to so many different things in our lives. And so I'm just going to go through each of the steps and just tell you exactly what how they relate. Okay. So in the first step of a cycle is just a seed. And we all know that you plant the seed under the ground and that seed is 100% synonymous, no surprise, to our ideas, the things that we want to do, the goals that we have, us as human beings, just whatever it is that we're working towards, whatever you're thinking about as you clicked play on this video, that's the seed. You water the seed, you feed it whatever the nutrients are that it needs, and eventually that seed starts to root. And so then the seed then becomes a sprout, which is stage 2. So you have seedling, then you have the sprout, which is stage 2, which occurs once it starts to develop roots and they start to form. And that's when you eventually have it to sprout up over, out of the soil. During this stage, the root system is what really starts to grow. And so again, a lot of stuff going on under the surface, not too much happening at the top. Stage number 3 is the growth or vegetative state. And this is the stage that really I shot up out of my bed. I know I did. Because in this stage, and I actually have some notes that I need to look at for this one to make sure I quote some things. And I'm actually going to quote where I got this information from, and you'll see the image. You've seen the image kind of popping in and out, but I will quote where I got it from. I'll tag that as well. But in this stage, it is when only the root system is strong enough to actually support all of the growth that is happening. That is when the rest of the plant growth will happen. And so this stage is called the growth or vegetative stage for that reason, because that's when things kind of start to happen. You know, the roots are getting stronger, and this is where the plant spends a lot of time, but mostly in that like root stage and just trying to get to a certain point to where it can support the rest of the plant, right? This is the part that got me, because in the verbiage of this website, it says, you know, it talks about this stage and all these different things, and it's not super long, but it says, however, it is not time for the plant to start flowering yet. So it's talking about all this growth and all these things that are happening with the plant at this time, and it's strengthening itself, and there is some growth. Things are happening with the roots. It's getting stronger, but it's like, you might think it's time for it to start flowering, but it's not yet. Like, it's so close, but not yet. And this part just really, I mean, I couldn't even put it into words, but I knew I had to because I was going to do this video. But the fact that it's called the growth or vegetative state to me is so interesting, because a lot of times when we think of vegetative, the first thing we think of is like a person, unfortunately, who is like brain dead or in a vegetative state. You know, they talk about people who are just brain dead. There maybe had some kind of traumatic brain injury or something, and this is how it left them. And we oftentimes, our mind just goes to dead, you know, but what I love is that when we're talking about plants, vegetative does not mean dead in any way. It's like it is like the ultimate growth stage, you know. It has nothing to do with being dead. It has nothing to do with you not being responsive or stagnant or whatever. It is the growth and life phase, and that's what this vegetative part is talking about. And honestly, I feel like that's where I am. You know, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, where are the flowers? Like, the flowers should be here by now, you know, and they're not, you know. Or where is the harvest? The harvest should be here by now, and it's not. But the beautiful thing about this phase is that there's so much is happening. It's building that foundation, and it's allowing me, and it's allowing the plant and you to really get as strong as you need to get, so that later on in your growth process, you're going to have everything you need. You're going to have all the support. You're going to have all of the roots, all of the things that need to happen, the foundation, all of that will be perfected before you grow. Almost like, just, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, you know. It sounds great to say that, but sometimes we do. But that's exactly what this phase is about. The other thing that was interesting about this phase, they talked just briefly about how this phase requires special attention to the nutrients that you're giving it. Just because it's such a vital phase, you really have to pay attention to what nutrients the plant needs at this time during the growth and vegetative state or vegetation state, because this again is where, like, the foundation, this is how it all starts, you know, and this is absolutely synonymous with our lives during this time. All of the work that we're doing and all of the work that you're putting in to reach your different goals and dreams and to get yourself to the place where you want to be. There's so many things that have to go into it, and it's special nutrients and special time and things that you know that you have to be doing during this time. It's not the time to just set it and forget it. That's not what this phase is about. And honestly, the life of a plant cycle very rarely is set it and forget it, you know. So that's why I just love the parallel that they have. What this phase is really about is producing and strengthening the stems, the leaves, and the root system. Okay, so remember that as we're moving forward, thinking about ourselves, this phase is like, this is the phase that you can't skip. You can't just move on to number 4 and you haven't gone through the growth and the vegetation phase. Okay, So number 4 is the reproductive stage. And in this stage, it is not about growing larger, but flowering. And so this is another phase where you may feel like, okay, I've done this, I've gotten this far, and at this point, like, I really need to be growing. Like, this business needs to be just off the board, millionaire, but not necessarily. You just might not be at that phase yet, And so in this phase, it talked about in the piece that I read, it talked about how the plant is not necessarily like just trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but now it has a specific focus of just flowering. Okay. And so in this phase, this is where I love this so much, y'all. In this phase, this is where you really start to see the evidence of the work that you've been putting in, And so remember that the phase right before this, it's not that things weren't happening, not at all. There was so much happening in that phase right before this, but you, me, some of us listening, we're probably just not seeing the evidence of it yet because we're not at stage 5, which is the reproductive stage, where now that plant is focusing on flowering and becoming this beautiful thing that it is meant to be. And so that's the part where, again, we all want to skip to. We just want the seed to flower, like seed, evidence, money, let's get there, seed, evidence, goal achieved, like skipping all these other things that have to happen to get to this beautiful flower. We can't do it. But I'm there with you. I want to skip some stages too. I'm not even going to lie. But the more I sat and just really read about this and listening to different things that people are sending me, and just really spending time thinking about where I am and how it relates to all of this, like I'm seeing the beauty in it, and I'm able to embrace the phase, the wait, instead of just loathing it and being mad about it. This phase also requires different nutrients in order for the flowers to continue to grow. And so if you actually raise plants, which I don't, I'm the type that kills bamboo. I can kill succulents. I can kill cactus, okay, which is like, that kind of is the set it and forget it plant. But not for me, okay? I don't know what it is, but I think it's important to remember what it is that you're working on. What type of nutrients, what do you need to do? What is the input that needs to happen before you get to the next phase? And so sometimes we don't even know. I'm not even going to sit here and act like, I can tell you for your specific situation, every single thing that exactly has to happen for you to go from one phase to the other, because it really is different for each person based off of your goals, based off of your personality, based off of just you in general, based off of your story. But just know that you have to allow yourself to actually be in the phase. You've got to go through the phase. It's like, the word matriculation comes to mind. And it's like when you're in college and you're in undergrad or you're in a graduate program, you have to matriculate. You don't just come out with your degree. You actually have to go through all the steps. You have to go to class, do the work, write the papers, all those things before you get to a certain point. And it's the same, with the plant cycle and our cycle of growth and our cycle of achieving our goals. All of it is the same. And so if we start to see it that way, I think we take a lot of the sorrow out of it when we begin to see ourselves as growing beings, and just not being able to skip stages in any way. Okay. And stage number 5 is the pollination phase. And so this phase is more about the seeds dropping and spreading. And the seeds are now meant to replicate and to grow more plants. And so this one to me was, well, first let me say this. It talks about in the article or the piece that I was kind of referencing, it talks about the natural pollinators. And so those are bees, those are butterflies, those are hummingbirds, different kinds of birds and things like that. Those things are natural pollinators. And so they help the seeds to fall to the ground because they're moving. There's something else is moving them. Wind is also a natural pollinator. You have machines that can pollinate and things like that. So, but pollination is necessary. Otherwise, the plant just stays to itself. And so I love that they included this as a phase because, again, we are not meant to do this alone. We will need people to help us pollinate. we will need to be helpers, to help others pollinate, which is probably should be all of our goal. And no matter what it is that we're trying to achieve, is to really help other people. And so this stage, again, is not one that you want to skip. Whatever your goal is in life, to skip the pollination phase, where you haven't touched any, you haven't helped out any other souls, you have not encouraged another soul, you have not assisted anyone in any way, you haven't served anyone in any way, and neither have you received any help in any kind of way, that's a lonely place to be. So it's like, okay, I've achieved this goal, yay, I have the harvest, but what about, just nothing, just kind of an empty, no input, no output from you or anyone else. That kind of is a sad place to be. And so the pollination is to make sure that there's more that comes from the work that you're doing. And it's not just one single plant and then boom, we're done. Step 6 is harvest. And of course, this is the place where we all want to be. This is the place where we all aspire to get to that point where there is a harvest. The harvest is based, to me, is it's time to eat. And of course, we all are ready to, they say all these different terms, get to the bag, let's eat. There's endless terms to describe this in terms of life, but in plants, that harvest means that there are fruit. The fruit has come, it has all come in. The flowers oftentimes turn into fruits, or the fruit grows from the flower itself. And it's time for the farmers to come in and pick it and spread it and feed the world, The same with us, when it comes time to harvest, is all of the work that has happened, mostly underground, mostly in the root system, slowly over time has now come to an end. And I don't want to use the word end, but it has all come to just like this culminating point of now it's time for you to actually reap the benefits, and others to reap the benefits of the work that you've put in. And my friend, I just want to encourage you during all of these phases, again, to embrace it. I know that you might get sad. I know that you might feel like you're stagnant, but you're not. My husband said to me the other day, because I honestly said to him, like, I feel like I'm just stagnant. He's like, you're not stagnant, babe. You're not stagnant. And I'm just telling you the same exact thing. You are not stagnant in any way. No matter how slow the growth is going, as long as you are continuing to feed your plant, your body, your system, your spirit, your goals, whatever, as long as you're continuing to feed them, you will go from stage to stage, and don't get discouraged because you're just, can't even say just, but don't get discouraged because you're in stage 3, the growth and growth and vegetation stage for some years, because you have to look at it, even as my friend Desiree was saying, that hidden gem, is that it's just all in preparation for the day of your reckoning, honey. And when that day finally comes, I want to be here to rejoice with you and celebrate with you, and to just see that come to fruition. It's going to be a beautiful thing, but we won't get there by skipping steps. We don't get to the harvest by ignoring the dream. We don't get to the harvest by skipping over the steps. We don't get to the harvest by, not connecting with people who we know we should connect with. There are things that have to go into it in order to even get that flower, and so I just encourage you to continue on despite what you may feel like is a setback. It's not, it's just the stage that you're in, and that's okay. I think a lot of times we don't realize that it really is okay for you to be at stage 3. Don't let anybody convince you that, oh, you've been there for too long. You should definitely be in the flowering stage by now, or you should definitely be in the productive pollination stage by now. Who are they to tell you where you should be? Nobody knows. No one knows but God exactly where you should be and when you should be there. A lot of people will come on social media and tell you these are the steps to get to, this type of success, or these are the steps to achieve this level in your life. And yeah, there are some really good methods and tips and tricks. I even share some myself, but none of them will come with the time. Only you can set a timed goal for yourself. But even then, sometimes you find out, dang, okay, I really needed, maybe 2 years to get to this goal, and that's okay. So just keep at it. Never let anyone get you off track. from the being in different stages. Let them know, like, look, don't bother me. I'm in stage 3. Leave me alone. I got this. I'm doing good, and just remember, embrace each stage, and eventually you will see a beautiful harvest. And I wish that for you so much.